Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we're going to be taking a look at the overclocks for the new Wave Cooker. This is Driller's new secondary weapon, and this is my first impressions of these overclocks. So we're going to start out with the clean ones. Currently, the Wave Cooker has 2 clean, 2 unstable, and 2 balanced. The first one that we'll talk about is called Super Focusing Lens. This one increases your damage up to 50% so long as enemies are within 4 meters in front of your weapon. So you just get more damage. There is no downside to this one, just like most clean overclocks. The extra damage is pretty nice. It's pretty easy to get that close to enemies as Driller, since most of the time Driller is fighting at very close range. At least if you're using the cryo cannon or the flamethrower. Really not hard to get close to something that's already frozen. Even with the sludge pump slowing everything down and the sludge pump still not having super long range, you can still probably get within that 4 meters to get that little bit of extra damage. So this one felt pretty good to me. No real downside, nothing really to complain about. The second clean overclock for the Wave Cooker is called Liquid Cooling System. This one reduces the heat generation per tick, I guess. It's not really, well, I guess it is per shot, but it doesn't really feel that way. You also have a slightly faster cooling rate, which is great. And your overheat duration is cut down slightly. This one felt really good to me. It just is a straight bonus to the weapon. No matter how you like to build the weapon, this one is going to still be a bonus for you. And it synergizes well with all of its tier 5s as well as any other weapon that you want to pair it with. So yeah, this one, really good. Then we move on to the balanced overclocks. The first one is called Diffusion Ray. This one is kind of an odd one. This one makes it so you can penetrate up to 3 enemies with the Wave Cooker, which you couldn't really do before, although it is pretty easy to hit multiple enemies with the Wave Cooker, especially if you go with the full, wider lens. I guess that's more AoE. As well as all enemies hit by this are slowed down, which is great. The only downside for this one is that we lose out on 1 damage. Now, the Wave Cooker doesn't really have high damage to begin with, and the Wave Cooker by itself is not super strong, I would say, without its primary weapon. Just by itself, if you're only forced to use it, it's probably one of the weaker weapons. The slowdown is really nice, especially if you take it with the other slowdown in tier 3, I believe. These slowdowns stack on top of one another. You can also stack even more slowdown with sticky flames from the flamethrower, or you can slow down enemies more with the sludge pump. If you're using the cryo cannon, I don't think that this one's all that great for you unless you just want something at a distance to slow down. This one is still pretty good in multiplayer though, because you can slow down big amounts of enemies fairly easily. It's really good on escort missions. You can also stack the slowdown from the neurotoxin grenades on top of this too. So if you want to have a real slowdown build with this, it works, and I think it's okay. It's not really one of my favorites. I think it was probably my least favorite out of the overclocks, but I didn't hate it by any means. I still thought it was perfectly fine. Our second balanced overclock is called Mega Power Supply. This one increases your magazine size by a lot, increases your rate of fire. However, it lowers your cooling rate, and it increases your overheat duration. So if you can manage your heat, and you can manage not overheating your weapon, Mega Power Supply is pretty good. Anytime that I overheat the weapon anyway, I just switch back to my primary. So it's not a huge deal even if we do overheat it. The increased rate of fire is pretty nice. It fills really fast if you also take the narrow lens in tier 4, I think. I think it's tier 4 that you can pick your lens type. So you can shoot it really quick. The extra ammo is really nice because sometimes I do find myself running through ammo faster with the Wave Cooker than I do with my primary weapon. Usually if I'm taking this, I found it best if I was taking either the flamethrower or the cryo cannon and using the temperature shock build, so freeze things as fast as possible or light things on fire as fast as possible, switch to this, and then switch back and forth. That made it so I didn't run through ammo at all. I could sustain for a very long time before actually really needing a resupply. Combined with that and the drills and the throwing axes that you got, this one felt really strong to me. Even though it is one of the more basic overclocks, it's just a big ammo supply and I guess increased rate of fire. The downsides aren't that bad. I think that this one's probably one of the better ones for the Wave Cooker because it works well with any build. Then we move on to our unstable overclocks. The first unstable overclock we have is called Gamma Contamination. This one gives us a 25% chance to irradiate enemies. This works similar to the neurotoxin where it does damage over time. I don't know if this actually slows. It feels like it does, but I'm not sure about that. It seems to last a very long time compared to other status effects though, and I'm not entirely sure why that is, if it actually does last longer or if it just kind of feels that way. The downsides to this though are that we get 1 less beam damage, we get a smaller magazine size, and we get less shot width, so we are smaller. The narrow beam doesn't bother me too much. Ammo, yeah, I like to have my ammo, but you'll probably make up the loss in ammo with the amount of radiation you deal and then the radiation dealing damage over time. Same goes with the damage. This one felt pretty good to me. It feels the best, I think, with the sludge pump, because then in tier 5 you can take the other one that applies to slowdowns, the irradiation, and neurotoxin, I believe. I think it counts for all 3 of those. So you can start getting more damage on your weapon. It felt okay when I tried it with the flamethrower with the cryo cannon as well, but I think I liked it the best with the sludge pump, and I feel like it's a pretty unique overclock since it is one of only 2 that gives us radiation damage, the other one being Engineer's nukes, which, yeah, they're a lot more fun and way more powerful than the Wave Cooker, but this one is pretty fun too. And then our last unstable overclock is called Blistering Necrosis. This one is pretty good. I didn't know how good this one would be when I first read it or first heard about it, because it sounded like it might be overpowered. And I wouldn't really say that it is now that I've tried it. What Blistering Necrosis does is you have a 10% chance whenever you're hitting an enemy to spawn a blister on that enemy. If that blister is then hit, it can be with the Wave Cooker or with any other weapon. So long as it's hit, then it will pop and deal damage to the bug, which is really good. I don't think that this can spawn blisters on like robots or turrets, but it can spawn on any sort of organic enemy, which makes sense. The downside to Blister Necrosis, though, is that we can overheat our gun much easier and the cooling is not as good. So you build up heat quicker and you lose heat slower. Not really a great thing. The extra blisters on enemies is pretty nice. I like taking this with the tier 5 mod that lets you have pretty much like targets explode, similar to how the flamethrower works, because I'm usually finishing enemies off with this rather than with my primary weapon. And spreading damage with the Wave Cooker I find to be pretty useful. The blisters themselves are pretty good in solo. I think they're actually better in multiplayer, though, because it's far easier for potentially other teammates to hit them, even if it's completely by accident, especially if you have somebody like Gunner, where your weapons tend to hit in an area. So if you're running like autocannon or hurricane, it's very easy to accidentally hit the blister on there and blow it up, which is great for you and the team. This one I thought was pretty strong. Not as overpowered as I thought it might be, because I thought the weak spot might stay there forever, in which case then it seems like it would be really, really strong, because you could put weak spots all over enemies. And if you have any weapon that has AoE damage, like any of Driller's primary weapons, you could kill things really quick. That's not entirely how it works. By the time you've put that many blisters on something, you're probably going to kill it in just a few seconds anyway. So not as overpowered as I thought it might be. Still really good though. So those are my thoughts on the overclocks for the Wave Cooker. They all seem really good. There's not really a disappointing one here, which is great. I don't really like talking about disappointing overclocks, because usually they just aren't super interesting to talk about. All these felt pretty good whenever I played them. They work pretty well with the primary weapon. Some of them work better with others, but that's the way it goes with every weapon. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Tell me your thoughts on the Wave Cooker down below. How do you like it? How do you like its overclocks if you got to try them out? Special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this, and if you would like to be a part of it, you can. There are links down in the description. Thanks everybody for doing that. It really does help out the channel a lot. And you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye!